Welcome, everyone, to Saturday Evening Chats. This is episode 138, and we are talking about can I restore my rights in Florida? And let us throw up the opening banner.
In a world of uncertainty and turmoil, one man stands alone, along with his faithful sidekick. A man who entertains and educates the masses weekly, 70% of the time. Born out of the dusty plains of Washington State, now from the coastal forests of Oregon. The man, the myth, the man. G23.
So, I've been doing some research, and the best one I have found so far is from this is a Clemency Site, Florida Commission. Or nope, that's not the one I wanted. Works if I show the right screen. It is this one right here. So it talks about the policies on civil rights restoration. People with past felony convictions are eligible for civil rights restoration. These rights include the right to vote, if not already restored by Amendment 4, the right to sit on a jury, the right to hold public office. Restoration of rights to own, possess, or use firearms is still handled through a separate clemency process. So you have to file with a clemency board. And then the governor has to then allow you to have your rights back. So it's not like you can just file with the courts and, get them back. For most returning citizens, there is now no waiting period for rights restoration unless you have previously had your civil rights restored and are convicted of a new felony offense. You do not have to wait to apply for rights restoration. Individuals who have previously had their rights restored under Florida law and are convicted of another felony offense must wait at least 7 years after completing all non-financial terms of the sentence for their subsequent conviction before they are eligible for rights restoration in Florida again. So it says you still need to apply for the restoration of your rights even if your voting rights have already been restored, which is kind of interesting. So before we go any further, I'm going to run through the side chat. Mr. Patriot in the Dark was first in. M. Gabriel, Alaska 1 Andy, Gun Websites. Mr. CB's out there. Keith Gregory, Warsaw Patriot, and Andy 79Z28. So DJ Play Nice and Garage Guy have shown up. So welcome everyone, and we are talking about restoring your rights in the state of Florida. There's a poll out there, so you guys can vote on what state we'll do next. So for returning citizens who are eligible for voting right restoration under Amendment 4, people who both have never been convicted of murder or a felony sexual offense and have completed all terms of their sentence, including payment of all fines, fees, and restitution. Sorry. While your voting rights have been restored through Amendment 4, qualifying to vote under Amendment 4 does not restore any other civil rights. You will need to apply to have your civil rights, excluding firearm rights, restored. So, sounds like in Florida, you're going to have to go and really jump through the hoops. So, you're going to have to apply to get your rights restored. So, I mean, do you really care if you serve on a jury or not? That's up to you. But I'm going to, more likely than not, so far, what I've been reading, you're going to have to do that before you can apply for clemency to be able to then get your rights to own a firearm back. So this is looks like it's kind of a process, but it's not. It doesn't. I don't know if it really seems like it takes a whole lot of time. Nowhere in here have I found where it seems that you're going to be waiting like months and months and months to get it back. So Ron Wayne has jumped in. Welcome. So it's Tactical FUD. So your application will be automatically approved by the Clemency Board without a hearing. Your civil rights, excluding firearm rights, are immediately restored once your application has been processed. For returning citizens who are not eligible for voting rights restoration under Amendment 4, people who have felony convictions for murder or felony sexual assault or sexual offenses, and people who would qualify under Amendment 4 if not for fines, fees, and or restitution that they still owe, you do not qualify under Amendment 4, so your voting rights have not been restored. You will need to apply to have your civil rights restored. Your application for civil rights restoration will include both your voting rights and other civil rights, excluding firearm rights. So, I mean, they are making sure that you understand in every sentence on here that they're not giving you your firearm rights back. You have to go and jump through a different hoop to then be able to get that. So let's go ahead. We'll jump down through here. And it says, what if I was convicted in a non-Florida court, including federal convictions? It says you must be a legal resident of the state of Florida at the time your application for civil rights restoration is filed, considered, and acted upon. So I know maybe it wasn't this site that was showing. They had links. When you're doing this kind of research, you tend to jump through so many different ones. What's going on? Oh, what's going on, boss?
Oh, not much. Sorry, I lost track of time.
Oh, that's completely fine. Kind of going through on the Florida. So I don't know if you looked into any of it, but I know everything I have found. Pretty much your voting rights are immediately like restored to you. There's certain situations where they're not immediately restored, but then you have to apply with the Clemency Board for the rest of your civil rights, and those are immediately restored. The only one that's not is your rights to own a firearm, which then has to go in front of a hearing in front of the Clemency Board. They have to approve it, and then it's sent on to the governor, who then has to agree that, yes, you deserve to have your rights restored. So it seems there's a little more of a process.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it whatsoever. But the voting rights, that's similar to Washington. Washington about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, uh, made it so you automatically get your voting rights back.
Yep. And so we can go back to, we covered, not last week, but the week before, we covered Washington. Now, in Washington, you have multiple options. You can petition the court in the county that the Supreme Court in the county, or Superior Court in the county that you committed your crime, to get your rights restored. Or you can submit to like a clemency board in Washington for the governor's pardon to restore your rights. So there is a couple different ways you can go about it. You want to go with the courts first, because it's probably the easiest process and it's not going to take you as long. So that's the reason why you want to do that if you're in Washington. But we're talking Florida, and it seems Florida has a longer route of going about it. So Miss Vanessa Kitty's jumped in, and MC, who has jumped in out there. And I know we have Memorial Weekend and going on right now. So remember, guys and gals, the reason why we get this long weekend off work, it's so we can remember the men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice for this great country. They lost their lives defending us to be able to have our rights. And yes, not everyone gets to have a good long 3-day weekend. There are some people that will have to work, so as you're out there having your barbecues and everything, just, make sure you take some time, and think about it. So, I know you're going to be doing a show tonight, right, Foss?
Yeah, I was gonna do one tonight. Because I have to work next Wednesday, and then I'll be at Thunder on the Prairie Saturday, so that'll be basically missing 2 weeks. So I figured I just do one tonight. Um, make it like a Wednesday night, just to talk about whatever.
Well, you could do, a Saturday night from Thunder on the Prairie.
No, because I won't do it from my phone, and I'm not taking my laptop, so it's not gonna happen.
Oh man, you could easily do it from your phone.
Yeah, there's lots of things I could do. I said I'm not going to.
Oh, yep. But you're gonna be doing some videos and stuff like that, right?
Hopefully take some, but mainly I just want to go to meet people in person. People that I get to talk to on the internets, and be nice to be able to meet people in person. And that's kind of the main reason I'm going.
So, yeah, that definitely sounds like some fun. I know Patriot in the Dark says, question. If you do the process to restore your rights, is that only the state you reside in, or does that carry over nationally? So, if it's done correctly, it's a full-on restoration of your rights. So, if committed a crime in Florida and you've got all your rights restored and you move to, say, Montana, you should theoretically be able to purchase firearms there. Because everything is done if everything's done correctly. I know there's been some horror stories out of Washington State where it wasn't done correctly. And so in the state of Washington, it shows that they have their rights restored and they can buy firearms, they can possess them, everything like that. But if they go to another state, it still shows that they're a prohibited person. And that's where sometimes, yes, it's going to cost you a little bit more money to go and hire an attorney. But it theoretically should be done correctly. Where if you do it yourself, you may not follow all the steps that needs to be done. And then you may not get it completely done correctly. So, once the process has been, the judge grants your rights, says, hey, you're no longer a prohibited person. You can own firearms and everything in the state of Washington. The Superior Court, in whatever county, stamps it saying that they've received it from the judge and everything. And then they file it with the courts so that it is then it's turned over to the Washington State Patrol. Now, they're also supposed to file it with the FBI and NICS. And sometimes that process isn't done in a timely manner. And sometimes it's just completely forgotten to be done. So you have to make sure that that's all done. Which can be a pain in the ass. I'm telling you, it's there's nothing easy about it. But the fact is when you screw up and you did whatever you did to lose your rights, at this point in time, you're gonna have to jump through all the hoops that whatever state you live in decides they want to put in front of you. Do I agree with it? No. The way Florida does most of it, I agree that that's the way it should be done with all of it. Once you have met your obligations, so you did your time, if you had to do community supervision, parole, probation, whatever, it is that they decide to call it, and that's done, you should automatically get your rights restored. Now, my feeling is once they release you out of prison, you should get your rights restored. Because if they feel that you're not trustworthy enough to have your rights, then why do they feel that you're trustworthy enough to be walking the streets?
I agree with you.
Unfortunately, our judicial system is for profit. So jails, prisons, those are all profit. They want to make money. The courts, easily stuff could be done, automatically. Hey, you're done. Here's all your stuff. Here's all your rights. They're automatically restored. There's no begging for permission and stuff like that. And that's the way it should be. And the way I've been reading in Florida, they tend to do it the right way, except for the firearms restoration. You shouldn't have to beg a clemency board to get your rights back. And then you shouldn't have to hope and pray that the governor is going to agree with the clemency board and give you your rights back. They should automatically be restored. It shouldn't be such a financial burden that you're going to have to choose, can I protect my family legally now, or am I able to put food on the table? Do I have to start cutting certain things out just so that I can be able to restore my rights so that I can make more money? I can get better jobs. Things like this is looked at. So I see we have Miss She-Fires out in the crowd. So welcome. Yeah, there's a lot of things that could change. Do I see that they're probably going to change? Not unless we force this issue. And so we need to make sure that we're putting this stuff out there. Some of these topics that we have, like firearm, felons getting their rights back. There's a lot of people that don't agree with that. And if a felon is actually going through the process to get their rights restored, it's because they have changed. Because if you're going to just keep committing crimes, guess what? you're not going to care if you get your rights restored, because I can go to the corner and buy a gun cheaper if I know who to talk to than I can going to an FFL. It's the plain and simple truth. If you know, so so there are some things you can catch a felony and lose your rights, and you'd be like, I didn't. How can I lose my rights? Because I was speeding a little too fast, and now I got felony speeding. Guess what? You get a certain reckless endangerments, and that could be something that's completely was out of your control. You're driving down the road, minding your own business, and all of a sudden a freak rainstorm happens, and because you were going the speed limit, you start hydroplaning, and something happens, they can nail you for, reckless endangerment, exceeding speeds for road conditions, and when they pile stuff up, next thing you know, you're looking at a felony charge. So, there's, or if you miss that sign of school zone because maybe a tree grew around it or whatever, and you didn't see that it's a 20-mile-an-hour zone in this area because you're traveling or whatever, you didn't see it, and next thing and you're doing 35, you could catch a felony for speeding through that school zone in certain areas. So there's sometimes you're like, well, people will say, well, it's based on your actions. Some things are completely out of your control, but you still end up, hello. I know a guy who caught a felony because he was walking to his cousin's house with one of his cousins, and as they're walking, one of the cousins is like, hey, I'm going to go in and get something from the store. Well, they robbed the store. He didn't know that this cousin was going to go rob the store, but because he was with them, he's an accessory. So, yes, you can, but if there's stuff that's obstructing signs, you may be aware of everything, things, but if you're not, used to that area, you wouldn't know that sign is there because all you see is a tree or a bush or something. So there's happenstances that happen that can catch, get you caught up with something. And, people will say, oh, well, you can always control it. You can't control everything in life. We've all lived long enough that we can realize there's certain things that are completely out of our control. You wished you could control every damn thing in life. And, I'm not making excuses for everybody, but there's some things that will happen, and the likelihood that you get caught, maybe you don't, maybe you do, on certain things. Ron says, or if you're a one-eyed mouse with no rear view mirror.
What's behind you is behind you. Always look forward.
I was going to say you don't have to have a rear view mirror in certain states as long as you have side mirrors. Again, that all depends on what your state laws are. Like in Washington State, you don't have to have a windshield in your vehicle, but you have to have working wipers. What kind of sense does that make? You don't have to have a windshield in your vehicle, but you have to have working wipers. Yep, MC's correct. Too many things in life can get you a felony. Yeah, just think about how many people, here in a few days are going to catch a felony, or potentially catch a felony over this pistol brace issue. And if it's a federal felony, that's a whole different ball of wax that you're getting into, and we may touch on that when we go into as we get further and further through the states, unless people don't want to hear about it, then we may just not. Patriot says you wear goggles and lean really far forward. Yeah, but that's certain. That's those things. If unless you start reading different laws, you don't realize how many of them are actually like they kind of make no sense. But then you're like, wait a minute. But this law here contradicts this law over here if you actually start deep diving into a lot of this kind of stuff. MC says June bugs hurt like hell when you take one to the throat at 55 miles an hour. Hey, think about those big old bumblebees, and all of a sudden one of those goes flying and stings you in the damn face or neck. That's gonna hurt like hell. Or, you're driving down the road and somebody decides to throw a rock off an overpass. I'm kind of looking at still looking over the so here's an overview. Clemency overview. Clemency is the constitutionality authorized process that provides the means through which convicted felons may be considered for relief from punishment and seek restoration of their rights. The clemency function is an act of mercy that absolves an individual from all or any part of the punishment that the law imposes. This is a power to grant full or conditional pardons or commute punishments. If an individual was adjudicated delinquent of any offense as a juvenile and is not adjudicated guilty in an adult court, that person is not eligible for any form of clemency. Huh. So, are they saying that if you commit a crime as a kid, but then don't commit a crime as an adult, you can't ever get your rights restored? Is that what you're getting from that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It says if an individual was adjudicated delinquent of an offense as a juvenile and not adjudicated guilty as in adult court, that person is not eligible for any form of clemency.
Well, does that just mean while they're a juvenile? So if you're a kid and you get convicted, you can't get clemency as a kid.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd have to wait till you were 18, anyways, but the way I'm reading it and kind of understanding it is if you're not tried if you're not tried as an adult, or it doesn't, adult courts aren't like having any part of it, you don't seem to be able to get your rights back. So I don't know. That'd be a good question for a lawyer, and I'm definitely not a lawyer.
Well, it might be. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but it just might be the difference between a juvenile conviction and adult conviction, where you might not follow you the same. So I don't know if you can get it suppressed, or sealed when you're an adult and you stay out of trouble. But it might be something like that. So it's not that you can't ever come back from it. It's just because it's a juvenile status that there's some legal difference in there, and then it's a different process. I don't know.
So, from experience, I committed all my crimes when I was a kid. So I was under the age of 18. They were all juvenile crimes. And, the worst thing I got as an adult was some speeding tickets. And so but I still had to, even though those were juvenile crimes and they weren't adult crimes, I had to petition the superior court in the county that I was convicted. So yes, you still go and ask the adult courts, but they're the ones who, give you your rights back. And that's the way it's set up in Washington State.
Yeah, but when you're a juvenile, you're not losing your voting rights. You don't have a voting right.
Yeah, but they still take all your rights. Even as a juvenile, after 1996, and the Brady Law, you automatically lose all your rights. It doesn't matter if you're a juvenile or an adult. If you are convicted of a crime, of certain crimes, you automatically lose your rights. Even if you've never had those rights, yes, you have all your rights, that are given by, that are acknowledged in the Constitution, that are granted by, your creator, or however you want to refer to the power that above us all. So you have your rights and everything, but you just can't exercise them until you hit a certain age. Which, I don't get why they can say, okay, yeah, you've lost those, even though you've never been able to use them. But yeah, they can take your rights as a juvenile. Miss Vanessa Kitty says all BS until Supreme Court hears some assault weapons and mag bans. I must live with it here. Yeah, there's a lot of states that have to deal with that kind of stuff. And so far, knock on wood, Oregon has not had to deal with that. I know my brothers and sisters in Washington State have to deal with it, along with California, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and some other places they have to deal with, mag bans and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully, sooner or later, we start getting some rulings. I know we've been waiting for Judge Benitez to finally decide to make his ruling. We're waiting on other judges to make their rulings, and it seems that everyone's like, hey, we understand, how we're supposed to rule based on the New York Rifle and Pistol v. Bruin, but man, we're just going to drag our heels until we're kind of absolutely forced into it. Miss Vanessa, she says they are banning all pre-ban and others. They are banning open carry. They are limiting pistol purchases per month. Yep. Yeah, that sounds like California. So, get back into this. There are rules for these procedures, and these powers to grant clemency are vested in the governor with the agreement of 2 cabinet members who are also statewide elected officials. The governor also has the sole power to deny clemency. So, that's the thing is, if the clemency board says you should get your rights back, I don't think that the governor should then be able to say, you know what, I don't want to, no. If you have to go through a clemency board, so you're already having to do that process, then the governor's hands should kind of be tied and say, okay, you just have to sign off on this. Maybe I'm wrong in my thoughts on that, but I don't think so. You have any thoughts on that?
Oh, it's kind of like a veto power for bills that go to a governor to be signed.
Yeah, and I get that. That's a whole different kind of situation. But being able to be like, no, I don't agree that anyone should be able to get their rights back, and so then you start using your own, and so you just say, I'm just not going to sign. I'm going to veto every clemency that comes across my desk. Does that seem like it's fair? That you could put your own political, interests ahead of, the citizens' rights?
It depends on how you look at it. In a perfectly working system, the people have voted for the people who voted for that process to be that way. So if they don't like it, they can vote for different people to create different processes. I don't have an opinion on it, honestly. I don't live in that state. It's kind of a bum deal if that happens to you.
Yep. Okay, so types of clemencies. So we're kind of all, maybe some people know about this kind of stuff, others don't. There's a slew of different clemencies that you can end up going through, and so we'll start it and just keep going, reading through them. Full pardon, unconditional release a person from punishment and forgives guilt for any Florida convictions. It restores to the applicant all of the rights of citizenship possessed by the person before his or her conviction, including the right to own, possess, or use firearms. So, that's hopefully that would be the clemency you would get if you're applying for them. Then it says pardon without firearm authority. So, a pardon without firearm authority releases a person from punishment and forgives guilt. It entitles an applicant to all of the rights of citizenship enjoyed by the person before his or her conviction, except the specific authority to own, possess, or use firearms. So that's, kind of like a slap in the face. That's like, yeah, we think you're pretty good, but we're still not going to trust you with a firearm. So, I don't know. And then pardon for misdemeanor. A pardon for a misdemeanor conviction releases a person from punishment and forgives guilt. But does it restore their rights? Because there are certain misdemeanors in some states that, you lose your rights with. So, and then you have a commission or commutation of sentence may adjust an applicant's penalty to one less severe, but does not restore any civil rights and does not restore the authority to own, possess, or use firearms. So it could take like a class A felony and drop it down to a class B or C felony. Maybe it lowers it all the way down to a misdemeanor, but you still don't get your rights restored. So I see we got 223 DMR out in the crowd. Welcome. So MC says, so if one were to lose their rights as a citizen, could they move to a sanctuary state / city and just go about your business? No. I mean, could you? In theory, you could do a lot of things. Now you go to certain states that, are constitutional carry, or, they call themselves sanctuary states. And you buy your firearm, in a person-to-person sale where no one checks. You're not going through a 4473. Yeah, you could end up with a firearm. You could end up carrying it. But if by chance you get caught with the firearm, you're going to be a felon in possession of a firearm. And you're going to face those crimes. So, yeah, I'm definitely not saying do anything that's going to break any laws. And like here in Oregon, until you get your rights restored, you're pretty screwed. You can't own pepper spray. You can't own mace. You're restricted on the size of a knife that you can carry. And everything. So you really have to be completely careful, of knowing what your state and local laws are. So, so yeah. And then we have remission of fines and forfeiture. A remission of fines and forfeitures suspends, reduces, or removes fines or forfeitures. So, yeah, you could ask just to get your property restored to you. And then there's specific authority to own, possess, or use firearms. This specific authority to own, possess, or use firearms restores to an applicant the right to own, possess, or use firearms which were lost as a result of a felony conviction due to federal firearm laws. The Clemency Board will not consider requests for firearm authority from individuals convicted in federal or out-of-state courts in order to comply with federal laws, a presidential pardon, or a relief of disability from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms must be issued in cases involving federal court convictions, a pardon or a restoration of civil rights with no restrictions on firearm must be issued by the state where the conviction occurred. So, and that's pretty typical. If you were convicted of a crime in Montana, you can't, move to Texas. You can move to Texas, but you can't then petition a Texas court to restore your rights. You're going to have to then go back to, Montana where you were convicted and say, hey, I want my rights back. And, some states will require that you have to be there in person for every court hearing. Other states, you just apply and, it goes in front of a judge and they say yes or no, or it goes in front of a clemency board. They say yes or no, and it moves on from there. When I had my rights restored, I didn't have to go to court. My lawyers took care of all of that. So, Miss Wayne says, uh-oh, Ron, I got a wrench. Now you have to be good. So, oh. You have anything you want to say about this?
Not really, no.
So we have both Miss Wayne, Ron Wayne, and we've got Pat in a bunker who's all shown up out there. Yeah, I just thought it'd be funny, Ron, to give the wife a wrench and watch her, dangle that over you. I kind of thought it was a little bit of a joke, So here's the last little paragraph we have, and then we shall kind of wrap it up. It says restoration of civil rights in Florida. The restoration of civil rights restores to the applicant all of the rights of a citizenship in the state of Florida enjoyed before the felony conviction, except the specific authority to own, possess, or use firearms. Such restoration shall be relieve an applicant from the registration and notification requirements or any other obligations and restrictions imposed by law upon sexual predators or sexual offenders. And then it goes down to regarding the restoration of civil rights process and the passage of Amendment 4 for those offenders convicted by the amendment. Only the right to vote, not the right to sit on a jury or the right to hold public office, is contemplated by the amendment. Restoration of the right to sit on a jury and to hold public office can only be obtained through application to the Board of Executive or exit. Yeah. My words do not want to work with me today. executive clemency. As to those offenders not covered by the amendment, namely those convicted of murder or a felony sexual offense, or those who have not completed all terms of their sentence, the restoration of the right to vote, to sit on a jury, and to hold public office can only be obtained through application to the Board of Executive Clemency. For more information on the eligibility criteria for each form of clemency, Rule 5, read the rules of executive clemency. So, this was just the clemency overview. Then you have the rules. Office of Executive Clemency, applying for restoration of civil rights, pardon, firearm authority, and other forms of clemency. So you can actually get all the forms. I will copy this and I will paste it. And then we'll edit the live stream. Right as we're doing this live, we'll edit. We'll paste that in there so that it can be found in the descriptions. And we have saved it. Maybe I'll have to go out editing it a different way. So I'll just put it in after the fact. Or maybe I can do it from the YouTube side. We can stop sharing the screen. Edit video. Hopefully this doesn't screw anything up. We'll find out. There we go. So now that should be in the descriptions. So we've got the Scottish American who's jumped in out there. You have anything you want to touch on about what we've been talking about?
Not really. It's not something that I've gone through myself, so I'm don't have any experience with it.
Yep. So Ron says, I appreciate that. You're a real friend. Hey, you're welcome, bud. Anytime. And Miss Wayne says she knows who has her back. So, yep. So, yeah, you know, and a lot of people probably don't really kind of give a damn either way. Unless you've been through the situation or you have friends or family that's been through losing their rights. So then you kind of like, some will give a damn and, try to figure out how to help. Others won't care. And there's like, yeah, that's not my problem. I don't need to worry about it. So, anyone who has questions or anything out in the side chat. You can go ahead and ask any questions, and if I can figure out how to answer it, I will do that. So, Patriot in the Dark says, "Good show, pal. Everyone making an outstanding night, and watch out for the Meg. Watch out for the giant sharks in the ocean. So they will get you." Yep. Have a great weekend. And again, guys, remember this is Memorial Weekend, and at some point in time, you need to take time out and remember the reason why we have this weekend. And so, there's a lot of men and women that sacrificed everything. Trying to do two different things at one time. Crap. Trying to find in the YouTube sphere some yeah, I was gonna play taps, but this is not working so well. So let me make sure so that YouTube doesn't try to give me a copyright or any of that. This is coming straight from the YouTube music. Okay. So again, remember, take a few minutes out and say thank you to the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice and lost their lives for this great country. This isn't the day to go out and thank anyone who's actively serving. or to thank anyone who has served before. They have those specific days. And this is to remember the men and women who gave everything. Remember their families that this time of year who have to remember that that's one less person that's going to be at the family barbecue or, hanging out with them. So, again, remember the reason why we have this 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend, however it happens to be. So, again, I want to thank everyone who has come and hung out with us for the last little about hour and a half, or hour 15 minutes. Mr. Foss, you want to plug anything before we get out of here?
Go check out Pat in the Bunker's channel. I don't have a link readily available, but Pat in the Bunker does some videos from the bunker and from the tractor, kind of guns and some farming stuff. Go check out Pat in the Bunker.
Yep, I know Mr. JH586 is approaching the 1,000 subscriber mark, and he could use another 30 or 40 people to come over and say, thanks and subscribe. So if you feel like doing that, go ahead, head over. I have a video that I posted up, which has all of his links in there. And check out MC's channel. MC has a great channel out there. There's a lot of guys out in the side chat. Ron Wayne, Miss She Fires, everybody that has some amazing channels. So if you're not watching them, subscribe to them. Go ahead, check it out, and see what they have kind of for content. So again, thanks everyone, and we will see you next Saturday. And I did forget to discuss what state we're going to do next. It looks like with 53%, we are looking at New York. So next Saturday, we shall talk about New York. So again, thanks everyone. And now we're out of here.
Bye-bye.